Well, I'm back fishing the little Dartmoor stream this afternoon. Managed to get a couple of hours off work. It's not really worth coming out in the evenings anymore now. It just gets dark too soon, so I suppose about 3 o'clock. Got a few hours before the light goes. And what I thought I'd do as I'm working my way up through this stream is just try and give a few little bits of advice for beginners if you've not come and done this sort of fishing before. Maybe you fly fished before, but you haven't done any of this, what I would call off-roading type fly fishing. I've tried to give a little bit of thought towards it, but I expect I'll forget half of it. I probably should have made some notes, but we'll just have to see what comes out at the end, I suppose. Awful lot of cutting and pasting. I have a little fish. Off you go. Right, let's get on with the named drivel, I suppose. Well, I think the first thing to say, and I know it's obvious, but it's probably the most important, is to remember at all times that these fish have had 100,000, maybe even millions of years, depending on how you look at it, of evolution, telling them to be scared of all the various hominids that might want to catch them and eat them. And you could argue that goes especially for the ones carrying long pointy sticks. So it's not really going to matter how great your rod is or your line or any of that stuff if you're scaring all the fish before you even get started. So we're definitely going to have to come with a bit of stealth. And we've got a lot of people walking here today, and I don't want to look too stupid talking to myself the whole time. Okay, so what does stealth mean? Well, obviously it's a huge subject and it's different for different people, but the biggest one I would say is you've got to keep yourself off the skyline. I'm sure most people will know about the trout's window of view, and obviously we're approaching them from behind, so we're trying to get into their blind spot. But you still want to try and not loom over them, as it were. So that means getting some waders on, getting in the river, kneeling down or sitting down, whatever you can do to lower your height. Oh, fish. Oh, quite a nice one. It's going to help. So here I'm kneeling on this rock, just because I know if I go and stand up there in full view, I'm not going to get any fish at all. Oh, it's a good one. There, good in the line. Yeah, look at the red spots on that. Lovely. So we're going to get in and wade, but we'll have to do it, you know, smoothly and slowly. It's no good crashing about through the water. That'll be just as bad. But yeah, that's the first point. Keep off the skyline as much as you can. The other thing we want to try and do is make use of any available cover that we've got. So that might be like a ball of this tree, or a boulder, or a fallen branch, or anything else we can sort of hide behind. Again, so the fish don't see us. Once they see you, it's game over. And my fly is sinking. Fish on. So another good tactic you can use with these little pools is to sort of sit in the pool below, or kneel as I am here, and fish up to the next one. Ah, shit. And then miss the rise and put the fly up the tree. Oh, it's come out. It's good. Anyway, hopefully you can see what I mean. Let's show the top of that rock now. This is where the chest waders come in so useful, because I'm literally sitting in the stream there. That might have been my chance. Blew it. Ah, and another one. Ah, now I am up the tree. Now obviously I'm not saying that you can't catch any fish from the bank or stood on top of a rock or whatever. You know, you can. Oh, there we go. Oh no. You're not seeing that one. But I think you're just putting yourself at a huge disadvantage if you don't pay attention at all times to trying to hide yourself from the fish. You're going to catch so much more, and you're probably going to catch the better fish as well, he says as he lands a tiny little sprat. But you know what I mean. Just one more thing I would add about your approach, especially. Right, up we go. Oh, nice fish. Not so much about, say, a bigger pool like this, but on the smaller pools where you're picking the pockets, try not to do too much false casting. There's not a lot of point creeping up to the spot, making sure your wading's careful and keeping off the skyline, etc., etc., to then spend a minute or something. Oh, lovely. Waving your rod backwards and forwards and scaring all the fish anyway. I'll talk a bit more about casting in a minute, but yeah, let's keep the false casting to a minimum. Okay, so let's have a little chat about casting then. Unfortunately, there's no two ways about it. If you want to improve your success, you're going to have to improve your casting. And I don't just mean standard overhead and roll casting. On these little streams, you're going to have to get creative. So you're not casting very far. So I would get out in the garden and hope, you know, if you've got a tree, or you can use your washing line and see, can you cast underneath this bough, like this tree here behind me? I'll show you in a minute. Can you do a little bow and arrow cast to flick the fly out? Can you cast while you're on your knees or sitting down? The more you can practice that, the easier you're going to find it when you come onto the stream, and it's going to increase your catch rate no end, because you'll be able to get the fly into places that you couldn't before, and that's often where the fish are hiding. So here I'm just roll casting it up the stream. You could try a little cast like backhanded underneath the branch. Another good cast you can do if you really are stuck for space is let some line out, let it go downstream. Just use the anchoring of the current against the line and then flick it out. Sometimes that can be enough. Anything you can think of really, just to get the fly to where you want it to go. I mean, yeah, on the bigger pools you'll be doing proper overhead casting, but a lot of it It's just tiny little flicks. I was rather hoping I was going to get a fish in there. That's ruined my take, but there we are. The principle is sound. Turned the camera off too early again. I did get one. Quite a good fish out of this pot. If I can find a way to get it in, I'll bring it into this slower stuff. Whoa. There we are, putting theory into practice. Look at that. There's the fly. Whoa. Steady. Oh, it's worked the fly loose anyway. Nice, it's tangled. There we go. Oh, look at that. Beautiful fish. Now we've had a fair bit of rain here this week, so the river's up a little bit coming through. But one other tactic with these bases is don't ignore the little pots like that pot there. Where you've got some depth and all those rocks, that's a prime lie for some fish to sit there and just have the food brought to them. It's going to be quite difficult to fish it today. It's probably going to get pulled straight out of there. Oh, there you go. And sometimes just dropping a fly in one of these little pots like that and leaving it anchored there, fish will come up and whack it. One of these quite dark fish we get on this river sometimes. There we go. So even just little pots just a few feet long and wide, as long as they've got some depth to them, definitely worth an explore. Now in terms of presentation, these Dartmoor fish aren't as fussy about a dragging fly, but I would still try and avoid it if you can. One thing I forgot to mention with the casting is that one of the reasons you want to get up nice and close to the fish is that you can keep the casting short, and that means much easier line control. You can keep more of it off the water, so it's not getting caught in all the currents. I mean, the few beginners I've taken out, especially ones who are used to fishing reservoirs, they cast and they just leave it like that, and you just get a huge belly of line all caught up in these rapids. And even if a fish takes now, you're not going to be able to strike. So it's not a bad idea when you're practicing your casting in the garden, just get used to the fact that this left hand is always there, it's always in charge. You don't want to cast and leave it to the side and be grasping for the line. Sometimes when it's really racing towards you, you might have to strip the line in to keep up with the fly. These fish, when they rise really fast. And you've got to be quick on the draw if you're going to connect with them. So you don't want any too much slack line in the system. Well, I knew I'd forget things and have to add them in, but just in terms of casting, first of all, one nice trick is to lay your line on top of the rock like this. Just means it's slightly anchored, gives the fly time to drift like that. Only a little fish. It might just give you enough of a drift to get a take, rather than having your line washed way downstream. So don't be afraid to use the rocks as a, like I say, an anchoring point. The other thing I meant to say was, I was talking about the first cast. There's an old axiom in fly fishing about making the first cast count, and that's probably more to do with when you're casting to rising fish. I think for this sort of stream, I'd like to say just concentrate on the first cast. So often the first 1, 2, maybe 3 presentations is when you're going to get a take, especially when you're casting in the little pots. And the fish, if they're going to take it, are going to take it pretty quickly. So if you deliver the fly and then look down at a reel, take a bit of line off, or look around you or whatever, you're going to miss it. So I would really concentrate on the first cast and be ready. Try and drill it into yourself that you're going to be ready for a take as soon as the fly hits the water. Because otherwise you just, I mean, it still happens all the time, you just get caught out all the time. The fish hit it back and you're just not there, you're not ready. So concentrate on the first cast. Right, well I hope you can hear me all right here. It's a bit loud here, the stream. One more little bit of advice, and this isn't really about fishing, this is more about a state of mind. I know I'm probably biased, but this isn't the easiest form of fishing. You are going to miss loads of fish, you are going to get caught in the trees, you are going to stumble and slip about on the bottom. And I mean, I'm guilty of this myself. Sometimes it can get a bit too much. You miss a fish or you lose a fish, the fly goes up a tree, you stumble going over to collect it, then your line's all tangled, now you're getting flustered and you start fishing poorly and the day just goes downhill. So I think you just need to try and be aware of it. Stop, take a break, maybe change the fly, have a drink or a sandwich if you've got such a thing. I missed it, chatting away. Yeah, try and come back fresh and don't be too hard on yourself. You know, it's difficult, it happens to everyone. You can see on my videos that I'm often getting caught up a tree, or I miss a take and slip on the, you know, on the stones. It comes with the territory. And I have found, to be honest, the best medicine is just to have a bloody good laugh at your own ineptitude. And yeah, it can make you feel better. Oh, I got one at last. There you go. And released. Well, I hope some of that's helped some of you. It's actually a bit of a quiet day here today, but I'm going to go on and do some fishing. Probably not a lot of filming now because season's drifting away. Don't think I'm going to get back here, so unless I catch some sort of monstrous thing, I want to film it. I'll catch you next time.